Okay, we're gonna jump into the red cards here. Again, the list for the red cards is in the description. So we'll start with the non-creature cards from lowest converted mana cost going up. So Pillar of Flame. There's a lot of burn in the red section of the cube. Again, you can't look at it as a deck. You have to look at it as cards that could potentially be splashed into another deck. Faithless Looting. Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, Searing Spear. Some of these cards are pretty much the same cards with different names. Incinerate, Magma Jet. It's 2 mana to do 2 damage, but it lets you scry, which is not bad in limited at all. Searing Blaze, Sudden Shock. It has split second. Arc Trail. Let me just see if I can focus this a little bit better. Browbeat. In limited, 3 mana to draw 3 cards or do 5 damage is not bad, at least in my opinion. Brimstone Volley can easily be 5 damage. Goblin War Drums. This is actually really good if you're running one of the rushdown archetypes in the cube, because your creatures, by the time you play this, say 4th or 5th turn, your creatures would be smaller than your opponent's creatures, but they'd need more than one creature to block each of your creatures, and you can get in that little bit of damage that you need to get in to finish the game. Flames of the Blood Hand. Volcanic Fallout. For those who don't know what it does, it's instant, 2 damage to each creature and each player, and it can't be countered. Carbonize. This might actually get replaced by Skullcrack, because I have a playset of Skullcrack, so I just haven't decided if I'm going to put it in the cube or not yet. The only advantage to this being that it can do 3 damage to a creature or a player, whereas Skullcrack only does it to a player. Barbed Lightning. Late game, 5 mana to do 3 damage to a creature and a player is pretty good in limited. Hounded of Infinite Rage. Continuous damage. Grab the Reins. It's instant speed, and you can pay the Entwine to sack the creature as well. And finally, for the non-creature spells, Thunderous Wrath. And Slice and Dice. And the last one is Rolling Thunder. It's the only X-Spell in red. Moving on to the creatures. Jackal Pup. You're going to see there's a lot of rush down creatures in red to go with the burn. Mogg Fanatic. Goblin Arsonist. Keldon Marauders. Sting Scouger. He's a really good card in that he can come out pretty early, and he can also bounce a creature your opponent controls, so you can get some damage through faster early game, or even late game. Gore-House Chainwalker. It's usually 2 mana for a 3/2. Blood Knight, Pro White and first strike. Mogg War Marshal. It's 2 mana for 3 creatures essentially. Goblin Wardriver. Hellspark Elemental. He dies at end of turn, but he has Unearth. Sulfer Elemental. Ather Membrane. Vulshok Sorcerer. The reason why I'm trying to go through these cards this fast is that the list is in the description, and there's a lot of cards to go through. Skirk Shaman. Splatter Thug. Goblin Ruinblaster. Dwarven Driller. Actually, let me go back to Dwarven Ruinblaster. When I get to the non-basic lands, you'll see why something like this is in there. And while there's only 40 non-basic lands in the cube, I think they're pretty solid cards for a Peasant cube. Dwarven Driller. This guy is usually just tap to do 2 damage to target player, because most times you're in limited, your opponent's not going to want to lose the land, so they'll just take the 2 damage. I've seen him do 6-8 damage in this cube so far. Keldon Champion, 4 mana for a 3/2 with haste, and when he comes into play, he bolts a player. I mean, he has Echo, but you get your value out of his casting cost. Anger, the creature that you hope dies, basically. Bloodfray Giant, it can be 4 for a 4/3 Trampler, or it can be 4 for a 5/4 Trampler. Really good. A lot of the cards in red are very, very aggressive in this cube. Furnace Whelp. Hatchet Bully, I'm kind of just going to zoom in on this guy because some people might not actually know what this card does. So it's 4 mana for a 3/3, and you pay 3 and tap it to put a 1/1 counter on a creature you control, and he does that 2 damage to a creature or player. So being a 3/3 body, he can actually use his ability on himself a few times. Flametongue Kavu. It's just straight up removal. Volcanic Dragon. It's probably the best creature in red in this cube. Just really, really strong. 4/4 flyer with haste. Gang of Devils. As I said, I can't run the Titans because it's a peasant cube, so this is a poor man's version of the red Titan, Inferno Titan. So it's 6 mana for a 3/3, but when he dies, you get to do 3 damage. Like the Inferno Titan's ability. Spite Bellows is a bigger Flametongue Kavu, but he does his damage when he leaves. Boldwyr Intimidator. I'm going to zoom in on this guy as well. So it's 7 mana for a 5/5 giant warrior, and he says cowards can't block warriors. And for 1 red mana, target creature becomes a coward until end of turn, which means that creature can't block him. And for 3 mana, you can turn any creature into a warrior until end of turn. So this guy can be pretty unblockable most of the times, just by himself, or he can make other creatures unblockable. Heartcage Giant is the final card in the red side of the cube, and it's 8 mana for a 5/5, but when he comes into play, you put 2 3/1 red elemental shaman creature tokens into play, and you can sacrifice elemental to give target giant +3/+1 until end of turn. So you get some value there. I'm gonna do white next, so see you in the next video.